Hello, I'm going to be providing a curriculum analysis for Loyola's PhD in Higher Education program. My name is Julia Mendez. I have a master's in sociology and I'm a current student of the PhD program. Here you'll find the description and outcomes of the PhD program as listed on Loyola's School of Education website. The PhD degree program in higher education draws upon a rich interdisciplinary, theoretical, and research base to illuminate thought and practice in post-secondary education in the United States. Students gain holistic and critical perspectives on college and university policies and practices. More specifically, students examine the roots of scientific inquiry and its bearing on research in the field of education. In addition to research-based coursework, a focused dissertation research project that advances knowledge in the field of higher education is required. Here's what the course trajectory looks like. First, there are the prerequisites for Introduction to Research Methods and Introduction to Statistics. The prereqs do not count toward the overall credits required for degree completion. Most students who've obtained a master's in a research-related field won't have to take these prerequisites, but otherwise they will have to take them in order to move forward in the program. Next, we have the core classes composing of 18 credit hours. The Pro Seminar in Higher Education, Critical Social Theories, and Budget and Finance are taken in the student's fall of Year 1, followed by Curriculum and Pedagogy and Organization and Governance in the spring of Year 1. Last, the research seminar is only taken in the fall of Year 3 when students are getting ready to prepare for their dissertation work. There are 12 credits required for research courses. These are classes in qualitative methods, quantitative methods, and 2 other research methods electives of the student's choosing. For electives, students need 3 higher education electives, and then 7 general electives, 4 of which can be used toward a doctoral minor if desired. However, the exact guidelines for completing a doctoral minor weren't exactly clear, and I'll touch upon that later. Otherwise, students can just have 7 general electives and they'll complete their degree the same way. After completing coursework, students will take their comprehensive examinations. These consist of a prospectus that has to be approved by the faculty. The prospectus will be approved, receive a revise and resubmit, or the student will be told to attempt again the next cycle. The deadlines for these are usually provided to students in their Sakai Doctoral Resources portal. After that, the students complete an integrative literature review. That is what their comprehensive examination consists of. For this, the student will either receive a pass, a conditional pass, meaning they can revise their work and resubmit it, or no pass, meaning that they'll have to try again in the next cycle. The dissertation process here at Loyola is fairly simple and goes along with what you see in most other places as well. First, there's the proposal, and that the student has to defend that proposal, and their committee has to approve their proposal defense. Then the student will embark on their data collection process, they will start writing, and then they'll defend. And of course, their committee has to approve their defense, and they'll receive their doctorate. There are many influential factors that go into a curriculum. First, the external factors, and I'm only going to touch on a couple of them for Loyola. First, the 2016 elections had a huge impact on the campus and on the content of the courses. Today, you'll see that a lot of our higher ed courses do discuss the impact of the 2016 elections. One example I can talk about is ELPS 429, which right now is a class on undocumented students in higher education. A lot of the literature actually talks about how undocumented students responded to the 2016 elections and what their lives have been like since. Also, what different institutions did to address this political tension on different college campuses. Another external factor is the location. Chicago is a very dense urban setting, and that's going to affect the kind of programs and the kind of courses that our students take. Specifically, students here are going to be more prepared to then go on to teach at an urban location rather than students from a university that are not in an urban setting. For internal factors, first there is the mission of Loyola University and its Jesuit principles. Here, the instructors have to incorporate the university's mission as well as Jesuit principles into every class. Usually, this goes something along the lines of care for the whole person, the whole body, things like that. The type of institution is another internal factor. In this case, Loyola is a private research university. Fairly small, I would say Loyola is about medium size, but it is not considered a large university by any means. The student demographics are another internal factor. Loyola does have a big, diverse student population, which is great, and it does influence the courses and the curriculum content that you see here. And finally, the faculty. The faculty preferences, where the faculty have come from, but also specifically to Loyola's higher education program, this program has shifted over the past couple of years. It's been revised. There's been a lot of faculty that have left, and we've also had a couple new people join us, and that's going to affect the classes that we have as well as the program structure. And this information on external and internal factors comes from Latuca and Stark's text. Now I'm going to go over some curricular comparisons. First, I've picked the University of Maine. The University of Maine is a small public research institution. It is smaller than Loyola, but unlike Loyola, it is public and not private. University of Maine has a very similar program for a PhD in higher education. The core classes are similar, so are the research requirements, and they're even the same amount of credits required for those. When it comes to electives, it really does work the same as our program here, except for they phrase it a little differently, and they call it a professional specialization, and they encourage students to do this sort of specialization through interdisciplinary courses. And basically what that looks like is taking those electives outside of their department. And the one thing that is different, though, is that in their program, students are required to do an applied internship and then field and dissertation research, and they'll receive credits for those as well. In our program, we do have the credits for dissertation research, but we're not required to do an applied internship on top of that. The University of Maine was fairly simple to compare because it was really similar in structure to Loyola, but for my next comparison, I picked an institution that is completely different. That is Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a large public institution, and by large, I mean it has over 30,000 students. So their structure and their program is going to look really different than what we see here at Loyola and at smaller schools like I just compared in the University of Maine. So here's what the course trajectory kind of looks like at Virginia Tech. And again, this is also a PhD in higher education. Their credits required are almost double as what we need here. They need 24 credit hours in what they call foundations. That's their core classes. They need 18 credits in research methods and statistics, comparable to our RMTD courses here at Loyola. Then they need 15 credits in their concentration and applied studies. This might be the interdisciplinary electives that we see at Loyola, but again, they're phrasing things really differently there. Then they need nine credits in Cognate, which is a single discipline. So they're going to pick one single discipline outside of higher education, like sociology, psychology, and they're going to need 9 credits in that one single discipline. So that's really different than what we see here at Loyola, even what we saw at the University of Maine. They want students to pick one single discipline to have 9 credits in. And next, they need 30 credit hours in dissertation research, which is much more than what we need here, much more than the University of Maine also required as well. So these students, you can see this university is really research focused and research heavy, much more than we are here at Loyola, and they're pushing their students to spend 30 credit hours in dissertation research. To give you an idea, the master's degree I did in sociology here at Loyola was 30 credit hours itself. So a master's degree here was 30 credit hours, and at Virginia Tech, just their dissertation research is going to take up those 30 hours. Their program is so complex that I couldn't just cover it in one slide. So in the following slide, I'm going to go into more detail on Virginia Tech's PhD in higher education program. they have what they call phases of doctoral study, and this is what it looks like to get a PhD in higher ed over at Virginia Tech. First, they start with general admission. That's how you apply for most schools, writing your statements of purpose, your research statements, your letters of rec. So you have the general admission process. The thing is if you get in general admission, that does not necessarily mean you're getting in for real, because after that, Virginia Tech has what they call the qualifying exam. So students get in based on general admission, and after that, they'll enroll for 12 credit hours. Once they complete 12 credit hours, they have to do this qualifying exam, and only after the qualifying exam will they be guaranteed a spot in this program. So a student will need to take 12 credit hours, and they might not pass that qualifying exam, and they'll be asked to leave, which is a really rigorous program to make the students take so many credit hours and not accept them. Though if the student passes the qualifying exam, they'll move on to residency. Residency is 2 consecutive semesters of at least 9 credits each. This here is not really accessible for part-time students. So their residency is they want these students to be able to be full-time for a full year, regardless if they're part-time, regardless if they have other jobs going on. So students can be part-time, but for the period of the residency, they're going to have to be full-time. Next, they have a written and oral preliminary exam. This is comparable to the comprehensive exams we have here at Loyola, but they also have an oral component, whereas ours is fully written. And then they have the dissertation prospectus exam, which again is similar to our dissertation process here. And the dissertation final defense is when they defend their dissertation and receive their doctorate. Moving back to our program here at Loyola, I did have some critiques I wanted to point out. This is based on my personal experience as well as my experience in talking to my fellow students. First, we really have unclear prerequisite requirements. For me personally, I was told I needed to take those 2 prereqs, then I was told I didn't, and then I tried to register for a course and I couldn't because it said I didn't fulfill the prerequisite. And it took multiple emails to multiple people for me to finally figure out that I didn't have to take the prereqs, because in my master's degree I already took research methods and statistics, so I don't need to retake them. It's just really unclear, and no one really had the answers to tell me, and that was a really frustrating process. And I almost ended up taking those prereqs and then wasting my summer funding taking classes that weren't going to count towards anything, and classes that I didn't need and weren't even going to be fulfilling because I've already taken that material. So in relation to this, there's inconsistent information across different platforms. Like the prereqs I just talked about, different people say different things. But also the core classes and the electives. For example, when I went over the course trajectory, I said that critical social theories is a core class. And it is. We have to take critical social theories that fall semester of year 1, unless we've taken it elsewhere and it transfers. However, on Loyola's website, it says that critical social theories is an elective. So if someone is going off of the website and they don't have an interest in critical social theories and they don't take it, well, now they're missing a core requirement, and that's not okay. So the website has different information. We have different worksheets that have different information, and then when we ask our faculty, each faculty has a different answer. So no one really has a concrete answer to give us, and that is really frustrating and can also be detrimental to our progress if we miss a class because we were unaware we had to take it. Along those same lines, accurate documents and information is difficult to obtain. We have advising worksheets, but the advising worksheet I had was different from the advising worksheet my colleague had, and they looked different, and I thought I had to take something I didn't. He thought he had to take something, and it just was really confusing. And how did we end up with 2 different advising sheets if we're in the same cohort? That really isn't acceptable, and so that certainly needs to get fixed. And like I said before, the faculty and staff are giving conflicting advice. Not all faculty are informed on all of the classes that we need to take. You ask one for advice, they'll tell you to take something. A different one will tell you to take a different class, and that again is frustrating, it's confusing, and it creates a lot of unnecessary stress. Finally, there's limited availability of core classes. So those core classes, though I understand we have a smaller program, some of them are only available in the fall, in the spring, like that research methods class is only available for the fall of your third year. Well, if someone is going either on a slower path, if they're part-time, or on a faster path because they've transferred more courses, well, then their schedule and their trajectory might not align with the times that those classes are offered. For example, I had a lot of classes transfer from my previous program, and I could, if that research methods core class was offered in the spring, I could get it out of the way this coming year. But I'm going to have to wait till the fall of my year 3 when I'm already done with coursework, and that really doesn't make sense because that's time I could be using working on my comprehensive exams and working on my dissertation research and proposal, but I won't be able to do that. So I'm going to be delayed because this class isn't available until a fall semester of my third year. So based on that, here are some of my personal recommendations. I think we need a total reset, not a reset of the program, but we need a reset of the existing documents and the website, all the information that's out there. I think it just needs to be completely redone. So clear everything out and redo it. Revise and update all information and assign someone to update that information every semester. So every semester, someone needs to be responsible for checking those forms, making sure they're up to date, and making sure students have access to the accurate forms. It's not acceptable that different students from the same cohort have different forms that are telling them different information because one is outdated and the other isn't. That's not okay, and that's certainly not fair to our students. So I suggest that you just redo everything and clear out every single place that you have this outdated information, replace it with updated information, and have someone who's going to be responsible for changing it. Next, we need to ensure that all faculty advisors receive accurate and consistent information on their students' program requirements. This should be obvious, but right now it's not happening because different faculty are giving their students different information. I understand that this is because we have a small department and therefore faculty are kind of wearing multiple hats and being advisors, being research supervisors, being just professors, and that's a lot to take on. However, if that's still going to be their given responsibility, we need to make sure they're adequately prepared to help us and to help their students because they have the best of intentions, but if they're not receiving the correct information, they're going to pass that inaccurate information on to the students, and therefore it's going to result in a ton of confusion. So I don't know what needs to be done, but maybe some sort of a meeting at the beginning of the year, forms, make sure faculty know what courses their students need to take, what counts, what doesn't count. And another big one is what transfers and doesn't transfer, because I've been kicked back and forth from administrators to faculty when I've been trying to figure out what classes from my previous programs transfer for what. I'm told talk to advisor, then I'm told talk to this admin, and no one really knows, and that's really, really frustrating. So we either need one person who's responsible for all transfer courses, or all single faculty need to be informed on the same procedures and on exactly what classes count for what. And finally, please offer those core classes more often so that students on a non-traditional timeline can complete their courses effectively. I know that this is easier said than done. I know that there are budget issues here, but it is really unfair that some students might be delayed or have to wait a full year before taking a class that they need simply because they're not on the same timeline as other people. When you admit students that are part-time, that are students that are just have gone straight through, other students who are coming out of professional experience, you have to also accept that they're all going to be on different trajectories, different paths, and different timelines, so you have to accommodate for them. And you can't just accommodate for one traditional path. Of course, it's not all bad, and this program does do some amazing things. So what I have to say is please keep the incredible support and care for students that you have here in this program. The faculty here are amazing. The support, the care, it's true, and I really feel it. As well as this program's flexibility with electives and encouragement of interdisciplinary studies. I've been in a program where we weren't even allowed to take classes outside of our own department. So to be in this program where interdisciplinary studies are encouraged, it's refreshing, and it's truly a wonderful experience. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my curriculum analysis.